Ladies and gentlemen, Season 2 is upon us. Besides a huge list of patch notes updating some heroes as well as bugs, we also have 2 new maps, a new rarity for gear stats also being revamped, bundled together, and apparently made to be more balanced even at the higher levels. And I'll talk more about that and some of my opinions at the end, but of course the biggest thing is the 2 new heroes, the Shinobi as well as the Centurion, which you've been seeing the movesets on screen here for. In this video, I wanted to go through both of these heroes to give you a full understanding for each of their different play styles, all of their different movesets and abilities, how to use them, whether you just want to see what's new with the game, or whether that gives you a head start to try and learn them today, or if you're going to be going up against them and need to understand their overall mechanics. Both of these characters in the hard category, and in my opinion, the Shinobi is insane with the amount of different combos and the amount of options that you have. In my opinion, he has a very high skill gap. We'll be starting with the Centurion though. He's a little bit more tame to learn with less overall options, but has just as much potential for incredible mix-ups and chains to keep enemies surprised and to deal massive damage. The overall philosophy with him is to continually mix up your attacks, as well as to use your melee to exhaust the enemy and then knock him to the ground. Once an opponent's on the ground, as you see here, he'll do a leaping strike, which does a massive amount of damage. You can use this ability on anybody that's on the ground, which means timing your revenge is even more powerful because knocking somebody on the ground allows you to open up an almost guaranteed massive hit. His triple light chain is just very basic, light, quick attacks to change it up on people, but the real power comes in with those heavy finishers. At the end of your chain, or even in these other combos that end with a heavy, you can either throw that heavy or hold it down and have a charged heavy attack to finish it off. But if it connects, it does additional damage and pins the enemy, giving you more time to follow up with another attack. Mainly your jab ability. After any of your heavy attacks hit or even are blocked, just press grab and you'll throw a jab at them. An unblockable punch, which will stun an enemy and decrease their stamina. Or if you charge it up, will actually knock them to the ground, which then gives you an opportunity to do that jumping strike on them. This ability you're seeing is similar to the Peacekeeper's grab and light stabs, but instead of that, the Centurion's light attacks don't do any damage at all, but actually fatigue the enemy, decreasing their stamina. They're then an easy throw to the ground or heavy jab, knock them back, and heavy damage drop. His light and throws, though, are where these chains start getting beautiful. Whenever you land a jab, they're stunned. You could follow up with another heavy attack, but the jab combo is a jab followed by just a light attack, which is extremely fast. It'll do a little bit of damage, and that also opens you up for the quick throw. Whenever any of your light attacks land, you can then do a throw right after that. You could then restart your chain or even throw a kick in, because after any throw, you can do a sick-ass Sparta kick. The best part is all of these quick chains that I'm talking about, you can see them in the moveset list. They're very short, and it's not one long chain that you have to follow, so you can change up what you're doing. Ultimately, the whole time fatiguing them as you keep coming at them with these unblockable attacks, forcing them to either dodge it or get hit and lose more stamina. Because he's throwing so many heavy attacks, though, and once you get somebody on the ground, it deals so much damage, most of the time they'll die very quickly. To counter him, you're really going to have to hit the parries to stop him and dodge whenever you see those uninterruptibles coming. Overall, he reminds me a lot of the Lawbringer, but seems to have a lot more speed and mobility to him. He also has options on his push, or rather jab in this case, to charge it up, as well as his heavy attack to charge it up, and to do more quick, short, change-up chains rather than doing one longer formula chain. The Shinobi, on the other hand, is insane. He's a teleporting sniper. Maybe not that drastic, but his weapons are on chains. And if you charge up your heavy attack, you can throw your weapon out. And that even has a combo where you can throw your second weapon out for 2 heavy strikes from range. The important counter to know is that if you parry this attack, and it's very easy to block it, but if you parry it, hitting a heavy attack right when you see the flash, it'll actually make the Shinobi unbalanced, potentially even knocking him over. Besides dealing heavy damage from range, though, he can also grab you from range while he's charged up, spinning that weapon behind him. Rather than letting go of the heavy attack, if he hits grab instead, it'll throw the chain out, grabbing you and pulling you close. Similar to the Berserker, Peacekeeper, and other assassins, he doesn't have a permanent guard in a direction, so he does have to time it appropriately if he wants to block the attacks, but he also has the deflect, just like those guys. If you dodge in the direction that the attack is coming, he'll deflect it, but his is even better. If the deflect is successfully pulled off, he'll actually teleport behind you, and it applies bleed damage. He's also even more agile than the other characters because he gets a double dodge. You can even dodge and then dodge cancel your first dodge. And the second one that you do is actually like a smoke bomb teleport move that looks amazing. You can't do it backwards, but if you successfully land any hits on the enemy, you can actually do a dodge backwards, which is a backflip. That's even faster, great dodge mechanic, and it chains. So you could do a throw grab, a heavy attack in, a roll forwards, a teleport forwards. The chains on the Shinobi are incredible. There's so many different options you can choose from, which is why I think it's going to be difficult to really master. There's also 2 ways for you to activate a triple bleed attack. Similar to how the Peacekeeper has its grab into the triple bleed stab, if the Shinobi lands 2 heavy attacks in a row, then you'll be pulled to the ground and they can do the 3 slashes. Alternatively, if they're at range and they grab you with their throwing hook, they can follow up with a heavy attack there, bringing you to the ground, and then also being able to get the triple attack off. As you can imagine, because these are followed up from heavy attacks, it does quite a bit of damage. Plus, putting bleed on you, not something you want to get caught by. The second heavy attack, when it does come in, is pretty slow, so you can block it or parry it or dodge it or do something. But if you're the Shinobi and successfully landed that second heavy attack, then you have to time out those light attacks just like you would for the Peacekeeper. The way I generally time it out is whenever your character hits the enemy, that's whenever I tap the light attack. If you spam the button or you do it too slow, the enemy's going to be able to break out. The best part is, though, once you finish that attack, you could then just do a backflip right back and do another one, or throw it up into a different chain. Shinobi also has 2 different kick abilities, one that's based on your deflect when you teleport behind them, or after you do 2 dodges, throw in a kick. It's an unblockable, drains the enemy's stamina, really good for keeping your chain going, but if your enemy's getting low on health and you just want to throw in a little bit of extra guaranteed damage, that's where that light combo comes in. If you don't know how that works, after you do a heavy attack, or after you do a light attack even, you can throw out another light attack and it's guaranteed to hit. If you're having trouble getting this to activate, keep in mind that it has to be in the same direction that your previous attack was. So if you do a light attack from the right, as soon as that light attack hits, that's when you want to click the next light attack. Make sure your guard is still in the same stance, and it'll just be a quick little strike giving you that extra damage boost. He also has a pretty unique feature in that once you're sprinting, if you hit the sprint button again, you'll actually run even faster. This time it does cost stamina, but he's effectively the fastest character in the game when he's doing it. There is so many different possibilities with this guy. I am still nowhere even near mastering him, but I hope this is a good overview guide to help get you guys started and to have a really good understanding of what their main ability sets are. Overall, I'm impressed with the 2 new heroes. I think it's always nice to have more options and to add some more diversity to it. It's nice to have 2 new maps. Supporting the game going forwards, I think Ubisoft has been doing a good job with that. They're making a lot of updates and tweaks to the characters. This is something we saw done very well with Rainbow Six Siege, although it took about a year for them to really fine-tune that game and get everything working completely right. They're on track, going a little bit slow to get everything completely updated to with what the community's been complaining about. One of the biggest things that I've personally have not really enjoyed, and I've seen a lot of people complaining about, is the amount of crates and steel that you have to spend in-game currency in order to unlock the gear. Whether it's just the visual ornaments or, more importantly, the gear that actually makes you better. I personally love the 4 versus 4 modes, but because of how the matchmaking is set up, and because those 4v4 modes rely on what gear level you have, players who are already ahead of me are destroying me. I cannot compete, especially if I'm trying to level something else up. Maybe I'm just a terrible player, which, you know, maybe that's the case. I haven't been playing it as much. But it seems, or maybe seemed, like it was a huge advantage that those guys had, which, you know, the guy's maxed up on gear score. I personally would love to see a mode that doesn't have to do with gear score in the 4v4 scene. I see this complaint especially in my For Honor Top Play series, where people say, oh, this guy's just got a whole bunch of revenge gear stacks, so that's why he just keeps dominating everybody in the huge multi-kills. One of the directions that they are making a good step towards, at least in my opinion, is that with elimination, they now made it so you can only be revived once per round, which means that the most you could do is a 1 versus 8. Whereas I've been submitted clips higher than 1 versus 12 because players just keep on getting revived. Let me know what you guys think about these two new heroes and if you think they're going to be overpowered. Also, what you think about the armor and gear sets. They did just make some changes to it, so we may see a change to it, but even just the 4v4 mode without a gear set score, if you would want to see that as well. I obviously draw a lot of comparisons to this as well as Rainbow Six Siege because it's also from Ubisoft, and they're really taking a lot from that in terms of how they're handling the maps, the seasons, and that game took quite a few months, if not a full year, to really take off, and now we're 2 years in, and now it's really got a good foothold. Is that going to be how long this game takes? I think they're doing a pretty good job in terms of updating it and trying to catch up to where it's at, but if it has the same long-term potential, we're still going to have to see. Personally, this is still a game that I enjoy to play and want to play more of, but whenever I go into 4v4 Dominion, just get cheesed on by a bunch of high gear score players, and because there's no real rank system, I kind of just say forget about it and end up playing something else. Again, I really hope you guys enjoyed the overview of the two new characters and some of my perspective from it. Give it a like if you did. Check out the recommended link for some top plays from For Honor, and of course, keep sending your guys' clips in. That's it for this one, though. This is SwagMountain 64, over and out.